You know, inside your head right now, there's a whole conversation going on. It's this nonstop negotiation between three very different parts of you. So today, we're going to pull back that curtain and really get to know the three voices that are shaping pretty much every single decision you make. I mean, you totally know this feeling, right? One part of you is just begging to hit the snooze button, but another part is screaming at you that you're going to be late for work. Or how about when one voice says, "Go on, eat the cake," and another one immediately whispers, "Don't you dare think about your diet." It's that classic universal feeling of being pulled in two different directions. Well, according to the one and only Sigmund Freud, this isn't just you being indecisive. He came along and said that this inner argument is actually the main event. It's the fundamental way your mind works. This constant, really high-stakes negotiation between three key players. Okay, so let's meet the cast in this little mental drama of yours. We're going to start with the two big extremes, the two voices that are just constantly clashing with each other. You've got the impulsive, raw force of your desires versus the demanding, nagging pressure of your ideals. First up, let's talk about the id. The easiest way to think about the id is like it's the toddler in your brain. It's the part of you that's been there from day one, and it wants what it wants, and it wants it right now. It lives by one very simple rule, the pleasure principle. Basically, if it feels good, let's do it. No questions asked. And the thing about the id is it does not compromise at all. It's powered by our most basic biological urges, hunger, aggression, the works. And get this, it's totally unconscious, which means you're not even really aware of its raw, unfiltered demands. And maybe most importantly, it has zero concept of reality, consequences, or what's right and wrong. And in the opposite corner, we have the superego. So if the id is the little devil on your shoulder, the superego is definitely the angel. This is your inner critic, your moral judge. It's the part of you that has soaked up all the rules, all the values, and all the shoulds from your parents, your teachers, and society as a whole. So the superego's whole job is to push you constantly toward being perfect. It's the voice that makes you feel proud when you do the right thing. And, maybe even more powerfully, it's the source of that horrible nagging guilt when you even think about breaking a rule. Its entire reason for being puts it on a direct collision course with the id. And here it is, the core conflict. You've got the id, totally guided by pleasure, just screaming, "I want it now." Meanwhile, the superego, guided by a strict moral code, fires back, "Absolutely not. You can't have that. It's wrong." One is pure, raw instinct. The other is all about learned rules. They're basically in a constant state of war. So, who breaks the tie? Well, that brings us to the third character in our trio, the one who has to manage this whole mess. Let's talk about the great mediator, the problem solver, the one who's stuck right in the middle of it all, the ego. The ego is basically you, your conscious self, the part that has to actually deal with the real world. Now, unlike the id, the ego operates on what Freud called the reality principle. It gets that you can't always have what you want right when you want it. So its job is to find a realistic and hopefully socially acceptable way to get the id what it wants without totally taking off the superego. So how does the ego actually pull this off? Let's just walk through it. Okay, step one, it hears the id's primal scream for, let's say, a giant piece of cake. Step two, it immediately checks in with the superego, which starts whispering about calories and self-control. Step three, it looks at the real world, like, is there even any cake around? And finally, step four, it tries to find a compromise. Okay, you can have a small slice, but only after you finish your work. See? It's a masterful negotiator. But what happens when that negotiation just completely fails? What happens when the id's demands are just too powerful, or the superego's judgment is just way too harsh? Well, that's when the whole system starts to overload, and we feel something we all know way too well: anxiety. See, in Freud's view, anxiety isn't just some random feeling that pops up. It's a direct result of the ego getting totally overwhelmed. It's like the steam shooting out of a pressure cooker when that internal conflict between your primal desires and your moral compass just gets too intense for the ego to handle. But here's the thing. Anxiety actually has a job to do. It's not just a bad feeling. It's an alarm bell. It's a warning signal to your conscious self, to your ego, letting it know that it's losing its grip and it needs to do something fast before things go off the rails. Freud actually broke this down into three different types. You've got reality anxiety, which is pretty straightforward. That's just fear of actual dangers in the world, like getting in an accident. But the other two are all internal.
Neurotic anxiety is the fear that your id's impulses are going to burst out and get you in some serious trouble. And then there's moral anxiety, which is that awful feeling of guilt or shame coming from your superego because you did or maybe even just thought about doing something it considers wrong.
So, after all this talk about conflict and anxiety and all this inner chaos, you might be thinking, wow, this sounds like a really messed up system. But let's try to reframe this for our grand finale. This internal battle, it is not a bug, it's a feature. Seriously, that constant push and pull between what you want, what you think you should do, and what's actually possible, that's not a sign that you're broken. It's the very engine of what makes you you. It makes you human. Your entire personality is literally forged in the fire of this conflict. Who you are is defined by how your ego chooses to solve these constant battles. A healthy personality is one with a strong ego that can balance the needs of both the id and the superego. But when one gets too dominant, that's when you see problems. An unchecked id might lead to really impulsive, self-destructive behavior. And an all-powerful superego, that can create someone who is super rigid, judgmental, and just plagued by guilt. And that leaves us with one final thought. As you go about the rest of your day, just try to listen in on that inner conversation. Is it your impulsive id that's making the most noise, demanding instant gratification? Is it your critical superego, insisting on perfection? Or is it your pragmatic ego, just trying its best to find a balance? Which of your inner voices is the loudest right now?